God, I've been talking for 4 minutes by myself. Let me see if I can get this. This is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. For being patient, I was doing my intro monologue and talking to myself, so maybe the second time it'll be better. Um, this is a follow-on to part one, and part one I did a couple days ago, and this is the part two. Where I left off last time was February 27th, which was the date of when the rollout was. It was the date when there was that ridiculous white binder rollout. So it was that event from the White House where all these people, Sobek and Cernovich and all these other characters kind of walked out with these public binders like it was the transparency. It was just completely untransparent. It was a joke. Like I knew right away it was a joke because I had studied the Maxwell cases and Epstein a lot, pretty much in detail. Like I've done a lot of shows on them with the great Roberta Glass of the True Crime Report. And we actually did a show right after Epstein died. I would think he was murdered in jail August 10th. But the cover up the cover up itself is an important story. It's an important component to the story of the Epstein files and what led up to the release of these documents. Just a massive document release, a very disorganized document released. And I talked about it in the last show that this is strategic, in my opinion. It was a strategically confusing and very intentionally haphazard drop of like millions of files without any organization, no catalog, just Bates numbers, and dropped it on the public. So it's very important that we kind of get the times and dates down, considering that Pam Bondi is in front of Congress on the 29th. I think she's in either the Judiciary or the House Oversight, and she will be, I think, under oath deposed. Much like Lutnick, they're going through, and these are very important documents. All this stuff is very important. And I haven't, some of the documents that I will show you tonight are extraordinary. They are truly extraordinary. I haven't heard anybody talk about these documents in context yet. And I read a lot and I try to follow up on the stories, and I listen to some of the other researchers on this topic. There's great ones out there, like Becca Day, this girl. She's amazing. I definitely, and so people have a different take and a different angle on everything, but she's really incredible. I would highly recommend you look into her research. But there's other really great researchers out there. Oh, long time guys. Ryan Dawson's one of the main ones that comes to mind. Whitney Webb. But these files aren't going away, and they are just incredible stories of so much going on. And it's really, the people call it the Epstein class. I call it the Epstein network. And they got away with a lot. And I've done shows like the NTOC shows I just did with Sean and Ons, talk about all this information that's coming in. And I'll show some of the documents. Like they've been brought out in court. So their files, people actually called that 1-800-FBI number. And they left information, and it was never disclosed to the public, to my knowledge. But they were out in these files. These are all out of copyright, by the way. So they're all in the public domain if they're made by the government. And I stated that in the last show as well. So it's something to just be aware of, is that some of the documents are third-party documents, which arguably are they're definitely under copyright. They're arguably fair use for comment and commentary, but you don't want to republish those in toto like they're not. You can comment on them. I think that's fair to say. Much like anything. Becca Day, I think it's Bekah, Day is her last name, according to the chat. Welcome to the chat, everybody. The best chat is on my main YouTube page. I'll put that up right now if you guys want to talk. Hopefully this won't be too long of of a series. I mean, the series will be long, but if you go anywhere that you're seeing the streamed, you can go to my biggest YouTube page that I got back has like 20,000 subs, and if you want to talk to other people in the chat, that's probably the best place to chat. But I see everything, but because it's streaming to 7 other sites, some people don't get that main chat. And there should be an option in StreamYard for the people to see the entirety of the chat. And that's something they should add on to. They should pay me for giving them that advice, actually. But anyway, if you're watching this, you'll see the Pam Bondi in action figure. If you remember this, she kept saying on Fox News, "It's on my desk, it's on my desk, it's on my desk." I mentioned that last time. And, they called her an inaction figure. And then they came, I mean, I'll show this document today. It's extraordinary, where they basically just said, "We're done. We've released everything and we're done." And that's kind of how the Epstein files, which I've likened to a hot potato, jumped from the control, which it really still is under the control of the Trump administration, but it flipped from like a right-wing talking point to a left. Like, oh, well, you're not showing anything else. What is it? And so then all the Democrats are like, well, we got to find this out. And there were delays in vote. There were sophisticated moves by Massey, who just, quote, lost, unquote. There's so many problems with that primary. I think that, it's just so corrupt. He's a much beloved figure, too, there. So there's a lot of problems with that. But this hot potato moved over and led to the EFTA. That's the first 4 letters of all these files. It's called a Bates number for people who aren't familiar with that. So they stamp these files, and they're just huge numbers. They're like million. The numbers go up to millions, 7-figure numbers, because that's how many documents there are. But every document is pre-set with that EFTA number. So it's Epstein Files Transparency Act, which is really just 1 or 2 pages. And I'll show that. I can bring that up. But if you remember, and it's not easy to remember, but there was this July cover-up, what I call the cover-up memo in July. And then the EFTA wasn't passed in November. It was delayed by the right? So Massey and Green, I think, maybe jumped over. And she said she was threatened and her family was threatened. She made this public statement. Like really hardcore threats, which are also reflected in these Epstein files of threats of family and stuff like that. Like really rough, heavy duty stuff. But they dropped, they switched over the line, right? Over the aisle, so to speak. And I forgot what Massey, I'll have to look into it more, but he used some kind of like legislative maneuver to get it passed. And then Trump went after Massey and still is going after Massey, and Massey's the bad guy. He's actually like a conservative constitutionalist who was fighting for all kind of good things for the American people. Really, I don't even think it's my opinion. Like, whoa, vote on the war. Like, whoa, sensible bills and, good food and things like that. So it's just, we're just in the midst of incredible corruption, and the handling of the Epstein files is indicative of that. And this series will show that. This cover-up will show a lot of the reason that I'm doing this kind of cover-up series is because I've been guests on other shows, and they're like, how did this kind of thing? It's like trying to put it into context, like the epistemology of the release of the Epstein files. Like, how did this happen? And it's not clear. It's deliberately, in my opinion, deliberately fuzzy. But yeah, Becca Day, I'll look her up. I'll find her Substack right now. I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, it's Becca Day. That's her. It's Dayy. That's how she does it. But she did this really great article on just another person I didn't even know. It's titled "The Girl Who Was Erased." Like, there's so many victims and people who didn't want to come forward, but there's just, me see if I can bring that up. It's really a great article. I want to promote her. I don't want to plagiarize, guys. But here's her Substack. Bekahday, Bekahday. She's one of many. Like I also promoted Anthony Westgate, who did something about occult Jeff, which is very true. But she's covered a lot of the stuff, this Paolo Zampoli character, and there's some kind of issue with his wife. And this is the girl, Nayla Miller, right there. This is her research. And she's with Andre Balazs, who I think owned Chateau Marmont and a Rothschild. She's hanging out with the global elite Rothschild people. But this Paolo Zampoli is a whole nother show, really. It's a really, I mean, this is a great article. Like, it's great journalism. It goes in very detail. So check it out. Check out her Substack. And I think she does a lot of videos on TikTok or Instagram. And I just think her stuff's good. Actually, she actually did some research that tied into the stuff that I did on Blink Twice. And it was a picture of P. Diddy, Trump, and the father of the director, the guy who was, what's the guy who sings "Are You Gonna Go My Way"? It was Lenny Kravitz. So Zoe Kravitz was the director of Blink Twice, which is literally like some kind of Epstein story in an island, and a bunch of guys who drug women and give them amnesia and turn them into kind of like slaves, like mental mind control people. And it's really incredible because I did a show without knowing this connection. Like, I saw the movie, but it didn't register. But I did a show on the deviant art of Jeffrey Epstein. I did many parts. I've been a guest on people and talked about Auguste Rodin and Jeff's attempt to buy The Gates of Hell by Auguste Rodin, which is an impressive piece. And there's pictures in the Epstein files of Auguste Rodin's Gates of Hell in Palo Alto at Stanford University. And there it is right there in the back of at the end, the very end of, it's almost very strange, like the way that it's presented too, if you like perspective and stuff like that. But the doctor who seems to be in on the whole thing kind of walks back through the Gates of Hell at some museum. Like, it's obviously other pieces of Rodin. And that's how it finishes, literally. It's with Kyle MacLachlan is playing this guy. It's a good movie. I actually do recommend Blink Twice. I don't know if it got a lot of publicity or anything in the studios, but that was also a credit to my audience. Like, they tell me about all this great information. But like I said, long intro, a lot of stuff in here. Well, I talked about Zampoli and Bekahday. This is a picture of Bondi with Zampoli. Zampoli seems to be this guy behind the scenes. He's an interesting character in himself, and was part of the modeling thing, and had his own modeling agency. Is a close personal friend of Trump, and is connected to the White House. There he is in DC. This is Paola. I think that's his wife, but they're with Bondi hanging out. This is 2025. And this is also Bondi with somebody named Frankel. Then another, I think that's also Bekahday's research, or somebody else. But it's her with this guy Frankel, and apparently he has kind of connections to child care centers. That's my understanding. But she was the AG of Florida during a lot of interesting things. So this is an interesting one from Sigrid Macaulay. This is in the files. But it basically says, don't send your stuff to FBI. Take all my evidence. It says, I tell them everything I was supposed to go the day after I spoke with you guys and was told to not to because they would take all my evidence and I'd never see it again. And a lot of this stuff that was taken out of the FBI, I don't think was ever supposed to be seen by the public. Just wasn't. But I want to play this video of Cruz. This is really something else. It's important to realize because The right presents itself as like the highest moral Christian, conservative. That's what they call themselves. But they were the ones who were very much involved, and Trump supposedly too. They were involved in stymieing the release of the Epstein files. And the facts show it. It's not even a joke. So all these people who are out there like, oh, we're high and mighty, flyover, heartland American. No, you're not. You covered up so many freaking crimes, abomination crimes. We don't like, there's women being operated on. There's very strange things, people disappearing, horror stories, acts of unspeakable depravity. One of the girls said she was raped 3 times a day at the island. Like, come on. Stop with the charade. You're actors. You're hypocrites. But here's Ted Cruz. Listen to this one.
This pattern keeps on happening. Now, Senator Booker also said we should have bipartisan agreement. I think that's a great idea. We should have bipartisan agreement. How about we all come together and say, let's stop murders? How about we all come together and say, let's stop rape? How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles?
What?
How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles?
Freudian slip there. I'm going to read through this article. It's a very important article. It's inside the FBI's review and redaction of the Epstein files. And I'm going to read it with commentary. And the reason is because it's just so important. Let's see. Because it goes into, somebody sent in an FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act. I think the guy's name is Jason Leopold. And it was just from November, but it talked about this process of that was taking place in 2025 of this redaction. But what he found out is that they were redacting stuff before the EFTA was passed. The EFTA actually didn't get passed in Congress until November. It was presented in Congress, I think in July or August, and there was just this delay. There was these delay processes. And even Massey said Johnson, who was the Speaker of the House, another, my opinion, just a complete hypocrite, fake Christian monster, like smiley, like nice, has a pleasant demeanor. But he helped cover this up. There's just absolutely no question about that. So to stop thinking about these people as good people. They're not. They're rotten. They're I don't even want to get into it. But he made this rotten decision, according to Massey, and what it shows out to like let Congress go home so that they could avoid voting on this stuff. This is the stuff you pay your taxes to know. Like you pay your taxes to the local police to catch criminals and stop criminality, unless you're in LA, because they just allow criminality because they're literal retards. But that's like supposed to be the theme of civilization. And then you like give money to FBI so that, you know, justice is blind and everybody gets criminally investigated and convicted if they're guilty of crimes, especially severe crimes of like raping 5-year-olds. What a thought. So this is a good article. I can try to put a link to it. The title of it is Inside the FBI's Review and Redaction of Epstein Files. The legacy of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein continues to hang over national politics. This is from November. Earlier this month, President Donald Trump signed legislation that required the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. Soon the public may finally get to see at least some of what the government has in its voluminous cache, which comprises more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence from its criminal probe of the serial sex abuser. Getting to this point has been quite a winding path, right? That started just after Trump took office. And that FOA files has been covering. So the Freedom of Information files have been covering. It goes back before the elections. It's a central component. I said this in the last show. Bongino, Patel, Trump, all these people. Yeah, we're going to get the list. We're going to get the files. They're on all these podcasts, all the bro podcasts. And then they got them and went, what? And you'll see this in this presentation today. You'll see what they tried to cover up. And it'll be clear as day. You won't have any kind of vague things, maybe ifs, ands, or buts. As I reported in March, after a botched rollout of what Attorney General Pam Bondi described as phase one of the release, that was the February 27th episode that I talked about in last show and at the intro of this show, the white binder clown show. Like, those people should have had like white face paint and a rubber nose, red rubber nose, and a rainbow wig on. Like, that was such a joke. I can't believe they get taken seriously. Like, I see these guys like Pasobek on like Tim Pool, and I just go, God, they're not even midwits. I mean, who listens to this slop? It's such a joke. FBI Director Kash Patel ordered about 1,000 special agents. So this is it. This is important. Now, this is a freaking division, like a military division or something. FBI special agents to team up with the Bureau's FOIA personnel and an FBI facility in Winchester, Virginia, to prepare the public files for public release. So the FBI is involved. The redactions are immense. The files are immense. The redactions are immense. They seem to redacted and sifted through at least 6 million files, 300 gigabytes. They're supposedly terabytes. Like, it's even bigger than that. But I want people to realize the enormity of what's going on in the deception by Pam Bondi, who's testifying in Congress, that she said it was on her desk. You don't need 1,000 FBI agents to go through something that's on your desk. So she's going on Fox News to just bamboozle, the MAGA people on Fox News. And they're complaining too, because she'd love to get on TV. Like, that's the height of her. It seemed to be like the height of her kind of public relations things, to get on TV. The army of agents from New York and Washington field offices, along with the FOIA officers, were instructed on how to review and apply redactions to the documents. So they were starting to redact before the EFTA. That's very important to understand. Over the summer, so the summer of 2025, I filed a wide-ranging FOIA request for those directives, as well as communications between agency personnel pertaining to their review of the files and the taxpayer dollars spent on the marathon 2-month process. So the 1,000 FBI agents, marathon. I then sued the FBI to compel release of the documents. Just this morning, this is November, I got the partially redacted records from the FBI. They mainly consist of emails that provide a look behind the scenes as agents and other FBI personnel started to work on the documents. The Bureau withheld more than 161 pages citing ongoing law enforcement proceedings and other FOIA exemptions. The emails revealed the special training given to FBI personnel working on what is called the Epstein Transparency Project. So that's very important. So there was an earlier project before the EFTA, which kind of forced all the files out under the FBI, under Bondi, under Patel, called the Epstein Transparency Project. In some instances, they referred to it as the Special Redaction Project. The training entailed PowerPoint slide presentations and video instruction on how to review the files. The records I got also revealed the number of hours the FBI devoted to the project, which required some agents to work nights and weekends. The FBI paid personnel from various divisions, including counterintelligence and international operations. So they got counterintelligence and international operations people from the FBI to actually look at the documents. That's so important. I cannot overstate the importance of that. So there's 1,000 kind of specialized FBI documents looking at the unredacted documents. Let that sink in. So all the CCM, all the indications of death and torture, all that stuff. You've got all these people who went through and redacted. That's who Congress should be trying to get in touch with, right? They've seen it unredacted. Trump doesn't read, so he probably doesn't know the totality. He just wants to get himself out of it, but he's in these documents all over it. And those public stories are all transparently fake. Like, it's all fake. Thousands of people from counterintelligence and international operations paid $850,000 in overtime for overtime. So they got their regular pay plus overtime, sounds like, for working on the Epstein files between March 17th and March 22nd. That's all he saw. Okay. 1 week, $1 million, basically, right? What about the other months and the other weeks and the delays that Bondi was talking about? If you remember that, like, I'm working on it. Everybody's like, well, where are the list? Where's the list? They were always focusing on the list, which is okay. But the network and the emails and things are far more important. FBI personnel clocked in a total of 4,737 hours of overtime. So that's just overtime. So they're probably working normal business hours plus overtime between January and July. Of that, more than 70% occurred during the month of March while personnel reviewed the Epstein files, documents show. In an email on March 10th, FBI personnel from the Office of General Counsel and the Bureau's Information Management Division discussed pending FOIA requests for Epstein-related records and digitizing and redacting physical files in the Bureau's commitment to transparency. Some of these redactions are covering up the perps. They're not covering up the victims, and a lot of them they missed the victims, so they revealed certain people who may not have wanted to be revealed. And the assumption in this whole thing is some of these victims, they say to the public, like, they're so concerned for the victims. Oh my gosh, the victims. Some of these victims have already come out and stated their names publicly. So I question whether they really care at this point that they're mentioned in these files when they've been, some of them have been screaming, from the rooftops about being in the file. Like, I'm related to this, cover my story. So it's like a false, like, pretentious, moralizing, oh, these victims. Like, well, some of them are probably angry, but not all of them. Another email described categories of videos the FBI reviewed related to certain Epstein files, which include search warrant execution photos, street surveillance video, and aerial footage from FBI warrant search warrant execution. A couple weeks later, an email sent from the Information and Management Division said the office continues to discussions with DOJ and is waiting clarification regarding additional criteria for the next phase. So there were phase projects. Phase 1 was a joke. We continue to scope and update workflow processes and training material based on those discussions. March 22 email says updated training materials and workflow guidance is expected for dissemination later tonight. The next day, another email was sent to FBI personnel reviewing the Epstein files, advising them to stand by. We have identified more files requiring phase 1 review. Emails indicate FBI personnel were continuously checking out Epstein files to review and redact. Guys, there's 1,000 some specialized FBI agents who've looked at these files unredacted. Just an FYI, just putting that out into the universe. On March 24, an email sent to FBI personnel, phase 1 redactions are complete. Phase 2 is being prepared for final delivery. Phase 2 review of the new criteria for the DOJ. Upon completion of phase 2, the Information Management Division will provide a copy of all see-through redactions for DOJ review. Bureau personnel also reviewed videos. According to an April 15th email, one of the videos is from the New York jail where Epstein was found dead a month after his arrest on sex trafficking charges. The DOJ released 11 hours of the prison video. It was the wrong video, I'm telling you. I'll show it to you. It's really great. And these are like a good meme. The look on your face when the Epstein list has been on your desk for over 257 days. They just delayed it. It's really just absolutely incredible stuff. And then this is kind of mentioned this is Pam Bondi testifying before the Judiciary Committee. This was, I believe, in February of this year. But these are some of the redactions. I use this as an example because I talked about this in the last show I did about the FBI files. And this is what Ted Lieu kind of talked to her about. There was a clash between Lieu and Bondi publicly about the information in this stuff that came into the FBI office here. I think that's a 302, which is a legally binding document. If you are convicted of perjuring yourself on a 302, that is a felony and you can be fined and jailed. And then she was dismissed on April 2nd, 2026. So it's kind of important. I'm kind of jumping around time places, but her career ended fairly recently, and Trump was displeased with her. So, but these are really interesting documents. This is one that I think is very important. These are all shown from the FBI. They're redacted. They're from the EFTA. You can see the EFTA number down at the bottom there, 016499154. So I'm just going through what they were getting right here. This whole thing that this guy was talking about that he got from his FBI, his redaction, which is this Epstein. What's he talking about here? Gosh. Epstein Transparency Project, or the Special Redaction Project. So I'm assuming this is from that, because the date is March 17th, 2025. They were only in office for a short amount of time. This is 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks after the February 27th ridiculous rollout that included another document that was sent from Bondi to Patel asking for more information. So, but these are interesting. They're guidance things. Guidance needed. New York, FBI, different offices. Good morning. Do you know what is the guidance for redacting images, or who would be able to assist with the guidance? B is CSAM victims, etc. CSAM is child sex abuse material. And Blanche himself, who's now the acting attorney general, said they had 2.3 million files depicting death, torture, and CSAM. A huge amount of files. It's almost the same amount of files that were dropped in late January and, late December 2025 and January 30th, 2026. Do you have clear guidance for redacting images? A, SAC, FBI, New York Criminal Division. Good morning, sir. These are criminal people looking at this, by the way. This is so important. Like, they're literally people looking at crimes that are being redacted or unredacted that aren't released to the public. CSAM is a crime. Depictions of death and torture are probably crimes. I don't know if they're over 18, maybe not. But. Good morning, sir. This is from March 17th. Blue F. IMD RIDS requests guidance redacting photographs. Who's protected under this transparency task? As mentioned before, we need guidance to redact 1B. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what IMD RIDS means. I don't know what that acronym is. Is requesting clear and consistent guidance to process 1B items. There are several boxes that need to be processed, and the sooner they have clear and consistent guidance, the sooner they will start processing those items. 1B items containing photographs of multiple individuals to include the subjects of this investigation, Epstein and Maxwell. IMD RIDs needs clear and specific guidance to redact these photographs. Some photographs depict victims, unknown identified females and males, former U.S. presidents, plural, Secretary of State, and other celebrities. The software does not have AI facial recognition to assist with the identification of some of the officials and celebrities. So they didn't know who they were. EFTA 016499154. That's it. This is another one. This is what the day after minor victim list. They had a supplemental list of victims. So they're using the term victim, child exploitation and trafficking task force. I'm also attaching a list of other victims provided by Catch2. Catch2 lists have been filtered to exclude any individuals previously identified by a review of index victims and Sentinel case. I was asked by SD New York, Southern District of New York, to please remind anyone who receives this information to be treated with the strictest confidentiality and sensitivity. So they had some victims. That means they have perps. If you have victims, you have criminals, right? But this is a whopper right here. This is redacted. Why is it redacted? It just says New York people, criminal division, New York FBI, March 26, 2025, guys. This is incredible stuff. I don't know who's it from. This is extremely helpful, and we appreciate it. We have received a request for more information. Would you be able to scope the material for the following? That's, I think, the references to the article I just read. Are there images of third parties beside Epstein, especially men? If there are depictions of third parties, please briefly describe them generally based on your review. Anything of particular interest, for example, public figures, if recognizable. A description is what is contained in the approximately 5.7 terabytes of data in the hard drives. They had 5.7 terabytes of data in the hard drives. That's what they're saying. Back in this article right here, he's saying 300 megabytes. Soon the public may finally get to see at least some of the government's voluminous cache, which comprise more. No, wrong. 300 is low. This is from the FBI, from the criminal division, from people in the FBI. 5.7 terabytes. That's the number people should use. We realize this is a continuing heavy lift. Is there any way to get some general information? These are the videos. It's video content. Forward, video content. Redact. As requested below is an updated review status, the 1B material and summary of contents. Reviews ongoing. Evidence that contains responsive data through such search warrants. Reviewed stats 23 of 30 folders comprising various images and videos from 1B 136 have been completed. 62 gigs out of 85 gigs are complete. Review summary. The majority of the files are internet image and videos based files, including commercial adult pornography. He has a lot of pornography that's been redacted. The remaining files reviewed such far image of nude, age-difficult females and sexually suggestive poses in various locations, including a beach and an apartment. Some of those images of nude, age-difficult females appear to be located at various residences owned by Jeffrey Epstein. In these images, the women are solo or with multiple women. In approximately 20 images, Epstein is with the topless women. Some images contained identifiable CSAM possessed by Epstein, but none of the CSAM was produced by Epstein. Some nude images of an adult former girlfriend. They talk about that. That was what's going on with the response. Thank you for the email. Team continues to review the material in the 1Bs. We could provide a very high level of summary. We've included will be able to contact line agents who are actively reviewing the material. We will provide a response at soonest, but will not be able to be all inclusive. And then it's March 25th. I was in my office, asked you if you could please send them the overview of the content of the videos your team is processing in order to provide to the AG. So they're sending it to Bondi, right? March 2025. Recognizing the videos haven't all been processed, they ask to be able to categorize those videos to provide a summary preview. XX videos depicting footage from home, number of videos depicting potential explicit content. You mentioned looking to provide the AG as soon as possible, so they're trying to provide it, and it's the A Branch Director of Infrastructure, Federal Bureau of Information, which is huge with a massive billions and billions of dollar budget. This is mentioning the new date for the Bondi deposition in the House Oversight Committee. So that's 29th. So it's a deposition. So it's today, the 21st. Then a lot of stuff, interesting stuff happened because Elon Musk was talking about a lot of stuff on his thing. This was kind of a big bomb at the time because the files hadn't been released and they were delaying things. So on June 6, 2025, Elon Musk writes on his Twitter or X, time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Then he also puts Bannon in the files. They're both in the files. That's July 8th. So he knew. But this is the really important document. And it's July 7th, 2025. And I'll give you the EFT number right away. This is the one they dropped. That's right. I'll read this in total. So they were doing all of this is very important. I'll recap because I want everybody listening to understand what the enormity of what happened. I want you to understand with perfect clarity. They had 1,000. They had 1,000, according to this FOIA, which I read. They had 1,000 agents looking through and redacting everything. Going through, there were directives, there's emails, There's all this other stuff. Then they drop this thing. This is one of the most important documents because all this stuff is going on beneath the surface. That's an army. That's a sizable army. Like El Salvador probably could put that together 1,000 military guys. Like it's a small army looking at everything. Then they drop this on the public. I remember when they dropped this file on the public. This is so important. So this is after the ridiculous thing that happened February 27th, 2025. And they keep saying transparency. This is just such brazen baloney. It's so bad. It's so freaking bad. U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI is under the Department of Justice. I'll read the whole thing. As part of our commitment to transparency, this should be memorialized. Like this should be put into a frame and put on people's walls. As part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desktop closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. You notice the difference between this one and that interior file of the FBI, where they said they had 5.7 terabytes? You got to look for these discrepancies. They're so important. Or different stories, but that's from their own internal documents. It's so bad. I shouldn't even be laughing. It's just so bad. It's so brazen. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos of images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts comb through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Who are the privacy and civil liberties experts? That's what I would ask if I was in Congress. Like, who are these people? Who actually saw this? Agents, analysts, attorneys. Who are the people? What are their names? What did they see? Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. I don't know what that is. I don't know why it's sealed. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trials. The seal served only to protect the victims, did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Seal served only protect victims. I already went through those documents last time by Berman, where they had additional co-conspirators and corporate people involved. He wrote very detailed legal memos and briefs on that material. 80, 90 pages, mostly totally redacted. They had the information. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child porn. So they're just, that's the whole thing. This is kind of, to me, it's a distraction. There is child porn, but it's the other co-conspirators. It's not all child porn. This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So they never found, like, that's not the point. This is deceptive to me. This is like dissembling. You can put together your own list by the people Epstein's hanging out with and using code words and doing strange things with. They put out a list with the EFTA by mandatory. It was mandatory by the congressional legislation. There's also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his accident. So there's no credible evidence. You don't leave evidence of it. Duh. You're not going to find it. Maybe it's in there. Maybe it's in the files if you redacted it. So I don't know. You don't know what's in there because you redacted so much. We did not uncover evidence that would predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Wow. Guys, go listen to the show I did with Sean and Hans and all these other documents that were coming into the FBI, the 302s, the NTOC stuff. They had the evidence. This is from the FBI, guys. I just cannot overstate this. It's not hyperbole. They had tons of files. Tons of information was coming in under Ray. So Massey, when he was questioning Congress, I forgot which hearing it was, but he's like, "You're right. It's not Trump. It goes back 4 administrations." Again, Massey's telling the truth. Consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. So they are pinning the 1,000 victims on Epstein. Wow. So each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout their materials. This includes specific details such as victim names and likenesses, physical description, places of birth, associates, and employment histories. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. Okay. So they've moved into like the conspiracy theory like excuse. But you have to kind of, speculate if you don't have all the facts, and that's what's going on. To that end, we have labored to provide the public with maximum information regarding Epstein. No, you didn't. No, you didn't do it at all because you had 5.7 terabytes. A lot of it's redacted. And even Blanche came out later after this document and said we kept 2.3 million files away because of torture, death, and CCN. You're contradicting yourself. That's not me. I know I'm kind of repeating myself. I'm doing it for emphasis because this makes me so angry. To that end, we have labored to provide the public maximum information. It is the determination of the Department of Justice under Bondi and the Federal Bureau of Information under Patel that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. After a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center on New York City on August 10th. The EFTA files that came out about this, I've done a whole show on the MCC, directly contradict this. Epstein kept saying, "I'm not suicidal." They handed him a piece of paper saying, "Are you suicidal?" I said, "No." Oh my God. He literally told some outside guy, he didn't trust the people in the jail. He told somebody who came in to investigate, "I think my guy is trying to kill me, my cellmate." This conclusion is, and they didn't, and I just need people. This is so important about the whole Epstein case. I just really need people to let this sink in. This link on the bottom too. How much, I don't know if this is incompetence or just straight out deception, but this document is just absolutely incredible. It is absolutely incredible. The conclusion is consistent with previous findings. No, it's not, including the August 19th autopsy findings in the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, which had both of his hyoid bones broken. Guys, that's very consistent with strangulation. The November 19 position of the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York in connection with the investigation of federal correctional officers, Tova Novell, I think, was in Congress on Monday. I mean, I could do a whole show on her. That'd be worthwhile. And the June 2023 conclusions of DOJ's Office of Inspector General. The conclusion that Epstein died by suicide is further supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. Guys, this document is so important. I just cannot overstate this. I should do a show where I just read this over and over again, what they put out, what the DOJ and the FBI put out. As DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by this footage. He's right. But that's not the operational. This isn't the operational video camera, which is shown in what was released by the EFTA. These are huge distinctions. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in his cell around 10 p.m. on August 9th to around 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers of the SHU. They didn't have to, guys. There were other people in the SHU. The SHU is the special housing. That's why it has its name. It's a jail within the jail. And the real camera that was filming, according to their own files, this is never disclosed. It's not disclosed here. It should be disclosed here. Omission is the greatest form of lie. That the actual camera that was facing or should have facing the hallway where Epstein was in a locked in area wasn't functioning from like late July to August 10th. Nobody needs to enter it. There were 2 or 3 other people in that section of the shoe. All you would have had to do is just open up the doors and let somebody go in the middle of the night. They never really investigated who those other people were actually in Epstein's section of the special housing unit. During this review, the FBI enhanced the relative footage by increasing its contrast, balancing. This is just such garbage. Balancing the cover and improving its sharpness for greater clarity and viewability. The full raw enhanced videos are the following links. These are links that work. They used to work. They're so important. Like you can click on these links right here. www.justice.gov.videofile. I'm going to do it, and I'll show you what they told the public was the correct link. You have to watch my video on the MCC to get clarity. It's not the right camera angle. It is facing out, but it's not face. You're led to believe that is Jeffrey Epstein's cell. You're kind of like led to believe that. It's not. It's shooting out from like the area where Epstein was inside the CSAM, which is like a 2-tiered system, just out into the central area. They wouldn't have to do that, guys. They're moving people around. Epstein had a new cellmate. He got a new cellmate the day before he died. Nobody even knew that. You have to watch my show on the MCC. This is just crazy stuff. So if you go to, let me see, I think that this is the FBI memo of 2025, July 7th. 2025. They would hope you forgot this. The public would forget this, honestly. But this is it. This is what they link to. I'll show it to you. So this is the link at the bottom of that. This goes to justice.gov video files, video 1, M4. It's 10 hours. This does shoot out into, if you see that white box on the bottom left, that's kind of onto the left of that is the doorway that leads to Jeffrey's cell. So what they're showing you here for 10 hours is really just the central atrium within the shoe. But if you look at the real diagram of the layout of the special housing unit, this isn't it. Neither of these 2 doors, 46 or this other one, these are not Jeff Epstein's cells. And I think it's suggested that that's supposed to be the case. But this doesn't matter because Tova Noel supposedly was supposed to sit at this place right to the left of the screen here. So people have like wasted 10 hours looking at this. It's just a total joke. It's a complete freaking joke. We adjusted contrast. Who cares? This isn't it. What they should have told you, and in their internal documents, what they found later, I don't know if they knew it by the time they published this document here on July 7th, 2025, is that it wasn't even the right camera. It's not the relevant camera, and that camera wasn't working. Conveniently, right? It's conveniently not working. Anyway, I'm at the hour mark. I'll try to wrap this one up, but I mean, I'll check let me see at these comments and stuff like that. Yeah, Becca Day. Wonder if Bondi will use evasive language in their testimony. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know if it's public either. I don't know if the Tova Day was public, but they need to ask really good questions. Some of the questions they should ask is the stuff I'm telling you now, because there's glaring distinctions. And remember, they were doing the redactions, and then they said there's nothing else to release here. That's why this date is so important, this July 7th, 2025 date, because they told the public, and that's when the EFTA, when the Democrats freaked out, is because of this. We're not releasing anything. we're done. And remember, they control these. Think about the thousands of FBI guys who looked at the unredacted versions. Think about the power. Like, who else is in these files? Like, I've gone through the files and seen other famous people in there. Woody Allen, Dick Cavett, the magicians, Blaine and Copperfield, and Bannon, who's relatively famous. Imagine the unredacted and the power that you really have if there's a back end analysis that really goes up the chain of command through Patel, through Bondi, and to Trump or Trump administration, so they actually know what's in there. Imagine that. That's power, baby. That's all the Epstein stuff that he may have caught by blackmail. Now they have it. Wow. Let's see. Just finished one. Ready for this one? Good. Religion is the first refuge of a scoundrel. Yeah, it sure is. I mean, oh God. No, well said, Larry. As a Christian, nothing turns me off than a hypocrite behind the cross. A lot of them are like that. Lately, it seems the DOJ can't backpedal away from the Epstein. I think you're right. They're really horrible stuff, guys, that's in there. And I would suggest you look at the data set that's easiest to go through. 9 to 10 are deliberately like piled high of stuff that's hard to go through. But you can go, if you have an hour and you have the inclination, go to the miscellaneous files at dataset 12 and just go through and download them all. It's probably 100 documents, maybe max, and just scan through them, because in those are the civil litigate. They're not necessarily out of copyright, so don't go repost them, in my opinion, unless you want to comment them. But just a comment on them. But they are incredible. There's one from Castle, who has been involved from the beginning and was like involved with Giuffre from the beginning, like 10 years ago. And he states that there's 200 civil lawsuits. It's just a whole new vast pile of information that hasn't hit the public because it's all under NDAs. But he's kind of like a central. I'm not surprised and surprised at the same time that guy has not been interviewed in public, because he is really one of the like super lawyers of our era, like David Boies or something like that. Like, he clerked for a Supreme Court judge. Like, lawyers are generally pretty smart, but like, there is definitely a tier system. Probably it's the same thing in doctors or whatever, or people in the military. But like, the elite of the elite are people who clerk for judges, and then the super elite are the ones who go to the Supreme Court. They are so smart, guys. I think the ones who really earned it, their intelligence is just at the highest level, man. Castle is one of them. Like, really, and he's done a lot of really great job. My recommendation, I always tell it ad nauseum to people, but you can go to my website, William Ramsey Investigates, and click on the Castle document about Cernovich and Dershowitz and read that. It's a public document. And I just can't believe that it's not publicized. Like, I mean, it makes perfect sense that Dershowitz that Cernovich is involved in that February 27th, 2025 white binder transparency charade. Yeah, Barr was going to get bombed and suicide. These connections are crazy because Barr's the AG. He's mentioned in the FBI files. His dad is an OSS guy, Intel, and Barr worked with Epstein, young Epstein, at the Dalton School, right? IDF redactors, special envoy. Right, the redacted, it's all Larry. That's very, very astute. He says every time they start talking releasing the files, they just release pages, which have almost every word redacted, rendering the release meaningless. Right, it's a fake release. It's fake transparency to the bone, like, it's no question. We pay taxes for police to catch the bad guys. That's the idea. Let's see, Bondi Scientology. Yeah, I think I've heard that she's a Scientologist. Can anybody confirm that? Because it would make sense that she was the AG of Florida, because that's where Tidewater, what's the place? Clearwater. I think the headquarters of Scientology is Clearwater, Florida. Yeah, lucky dog. That's right. Zampoli had his wife deported because of a custody battle. Everything will cover up. Yeah, that's right. Castro was there. There's interesting connections between Epstein and Castro. Both Fidel and Raul. Christian Zionists. Yeah, it's a different gospel, Lucky Dog. I think Christian Zionism is a different gospel than the Christian gospel. Crucian moved to Israel. What they now reveal the redactions. Right. I mean, some people have seen them without redactions. That's what's interesting about these articles, Diana, is that trying to show that like there were 1,000 people looking at the unredacted files back in 2025. And then they came in with this document that I just showed in July 7th saying, we're done. So that's the whole idea of this anatomy of a cover-up series, which I probably do 10 hours, but it's so important to see how this process was moving, this hot potato moved around. Yeah, the Epstein's phone. I don't think they'll ever be revealed. 5.7 terabytes. He had tons of information. I don't know. Trump doesn't read. My understanding, and it's kind of says that he doesn't spend a lot of time reading books and things like that. He's not exactly a reader. He has business meetings and things like that, but I don't think Trump sits down and has like personal time talking about stuff. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. Yeah, Larry, that's right. CIA, Mossad, MI6, all involved with Epstein. A lot. He was with everybody. He might have been working with other intel people in Saudi Arabia and other countries and other assets. So he just was redolent with intel. And one of the real giveaways, guys, is the passport, the very sophisticated passport he had under a different name that he had when he was 30, guys. He had a fake passport. It's very hard to get that. You have to be connected. And what was the purpose of it? It's very well stamped. So you see Epstein moving around at a pretty early age, relatively early age. So he was selected and trained, in my opinion. I just heard Patrick Byrne say on Alex Jones he's hearing another 3 million. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath. Wouldn't hold your breath. Right. There were cameras everywhere. Right. So you just heard from an internal FBI document about 5.7 terabytes of information, right? Terabytes. Yeah, terabyte is 1,000 more than a billion, I think. It's really, really big. Stock market's 50,000, guys. I guess I should just cancel. I should just give up. The Dow's over 50,000. I'm ending this transmission, guys. You're right. I never even should have started this. Blanche is another yeah. I mean, Bonnie was a gatekeeper, yeah. If you're a good liar, you're hired. Sure seems that way. Strong work, Will. Thanks, Murray. Thanks, R. Murray. Appreciate it. Yeah, if you like the show, feel like if this is worthwhile, feel free to share it. I really appreciate it. Great comments, guys. Trying to get through these comments. Barr in charge of Iran Contra, right? Yeah, weapons. A lot of stuff goes back. If you go back to the early Epstein, he's definitely associated with guys at BCCI and Khashoggi and overlaps. And it overlaps with Trump, who I think bought Khashoggi. Oh, no, I think it was Maxwell bought Khashoggi's thing. Then Trump bought Maxwell's yacht. Is that right? Thanks, Blues John's Travel. Anyway, let me see if I can just get through all these things. Get through these slides. It's going to get to the next ones. These are incredible. Call your congressman and tell them about this particular file from the Epstein Files Transparency Act. 016-48950. EFTA 016-48950. July 25th, 2025. After this thing came out, right? This is the FBI. They're like CCing people in New York and stuff like that. Sorry for the timing of this email. Just saw late text on my phone. Don't want to forget to send first thing. Blank, you are in early. Would you please handle task 1? Who is this? This needs to be unredacted. Blank, let's work on manipulating the spreadsheet we have for number 2. I put this in writing. They're manipulating the spreadsheet. Tasks 1. Confirm we interviewed cellmate at first suicide attempt. Apparently, lawyer at time made an allegation cellmate tried to kill Epstein and send ASAC to the 302. So they want to get a 302 of somebody to get him on the record or something like that. This is part of the cover up. I would scream and shout to get the emphasis across to you. This document is so important. EFTA 016-48950. Tell your congressman to bring this up to Van Bondi. Number 2, take these names and build out a new spreadsheet with all the derog on them. Trump, Weinstein, Prince Andrew, Glenn Dubin, Jess Staley, Leon Black, Les Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Howard Lutnick, Ponzi scheme, money laundering, Alexander Guest, Jean-Luc Brunel, William Barr for being present when a girl was raped. We just talked about Bill Barr, right? The AG, the former AG. Person who let go of Joffrey Berman, who put together those files on the co-conspirators. Ladies, sorry for the timing of this email. Just saw late text on my phone. Don't want to forget to send first thing. It's 3 a.m. If you're early, would you please handle task 1? 2, let's work on manipulating the spreadsheet we have for number 2. What are they doing manipulating a spreadsheet on these people? What the heck is going on here? July 25th. We just did that other file. That was July 7th. They had all this info. There's no they weren't going to release anything. They've come through everything, but they've got a list of these other people. We're done. We're done, guys. To that end, we have labored to provide the public. It is the determination of the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation. No further disclosure will be appropriate or warranted. By the way, I have a list of all these other people. I've got DROG on them. And I want to talk to somebody about the allegation somebody killed themselves. That's different than our suicide thing that we just put out in public on this document. That can be fine. You can just go find this document. EFTA 016-48950. Then you go into the delay. So these things came out in July, and the EFTA was not passed in Congress until November, I believe. June, July, August, September. Yeah, November. Here's the timeline. That document comes out in July 7th, July 15th. Ro Khanna, he's probably next on the chopping block. They're trying to primary his ass next. Introduced the bill. It was referred to the House. That's the cover up of like this massive rape blackmail thing going on in our country. We're not free. Stop calling yourself liberty and freedom if you're not for this. You're not at liberty and you're not free. Slap that stuff out of your freaking mouth. You're dumb. Not with this stuff that's not prosecuted. July 15th, 2025, Rep. Ro Khanna introduced the bill. It was referred to the House Judiciary Committee, where it's stalled under Republican leadership. Right? Just like Ted Cruz. Stop being harsh on the pedophiles, guys. Huge Freudian slip. Summer 2025, Mike Johnson. I don't have anything nice to say about this guy. You shouldn't either. House Speaker Mike Johnson, GOP leadership resisted bringing the bill to the floor. Johnson cited the need to give the Trump administration time to handle the issue. Expressed concern about protecting innocent parties. If they cared about the people who were raped, they would have released the stuff. This is like the kind of supercilious, like pretense at like virtue. Like I said earlier in this talk, some of the girls do have their names. They want to talk as much as possible. There's other great conversations. Women I didn't even know, like Thin White Lie and some of these other long form people. I can't remember their names right now. Some are newer podcasters. I've had these girls on to talk for hours. God bless them to come out and tell their story. God bless them, you know. He ended legislative business early and sent the House into an extended recess in late July, explicitly to avoid votes on Epstein related measures. Let's go over that again. Massey said the same thing. Repeat for emphasis. House Speaker Mike Johnson, now GOP leadership, resisted bringing the bill. Johnson cited the need to give Trump administration time. He ended legislative business early. This is your tax dollars not at work. You should be screaming like with pots and pans over this stuff in the public. He ended legislative business early and sent the House into an extended recess in late July, explicitly to avoid votes on Epstein-related measures. Government shutdown, September, November 2025. A prolonged government shutdown, one of the longest in history, around 40 days. Guys, nothing, it didn't affect my life at all. We don't need any of these people working. Honestly, it's probably better if they're not on the job because, you know, they didn't misspend our money. Honestly. Prolonged government shutdown kept the House mostly out of session. This further stalled progress on the discharge petition. That was the kind of legislative tool that Massey used. Democrats accused Johnson of deliberately prolonging the shutdown into delaying the swearing in of new members to slow the petition. I wouldn't be surprised. Discharge petition process. Because the bill was bottled up in committee, Rep. Thomas Massey and others pursued a discharge petition, a rare procedural tool to force a bill to the floor with 218 signatures. The petition gained momentum but was hampered by recess and shutdown. So the recess and shutdown aided the prevention of this coming forward after this statement by Bondi's, or Trump even, DOJ and FBI saying, we're not releasing anything else, right? I already went over that. July 7th, 2025. Representative Adelita Grijalva was a key figure. Johnson delayed her swearing in for about 7 weeks, partially citing the shutdown, which critics said was intended to prevent her from providing the decisive signature. She was finally sworn in on November 12th, and the signed petition reaching exactly 218 signatures. November 12th, 18th. Once the petition at 218 signatures, the ripening period, normally 7 legislative days, began, but Speaker Johnson agreed to expedite it. The House voted on November 18th, followed by Senate unanimous consent, November 19th, and President Trump signed it. That's the delay, a 4-month delay in the EFTA, which is not a complex, I mean, the so-called big, beautiful bill, which is definitely big and not beautiful. I mean, it's like thousands and thousands of pages. And this one bill is like literally 1 page. I'll read it here once I get up to the time of that. I think this is a good time to stop. I'm at the hour 15 minutes. But anybody in the Maria Farmer, there's a lot of people out. Thanks, Killing the Lieutenant. Yeah, great stuff. Those guys are connected, like H. Howard Hunt and a lot of that, just the craziness of the early 80s drug stuff. And I didn't know that that woman, Blanco, like had some hundreds of people murdered, like off the charts. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please share the show. It may seem boring at the top of kind of going through or going back over this cover-up, but I think specifically understanding the anatomy of how this progressed from the 2024 election through 2025 up to the present, and then what's being revealed. And there's still new articles coming out all over the world, really, about different aspects of Epstein's operation and his network. He's just a node in this kind of underground, sub rosa, intelligence, influence, sex trafficking operation. And it shows, it's an insight into how the elite live, how they view you. And it used to be kind of liminal, like, oh gosh, are these guys into Eyes Wide Shut parties or not? They are into it, guys. This is, yeah, thanks, Johnny. I'm glad it's not boring. Good. I'm glad you guys like it. I had some suspicions because, like, going through the details. Part 3 is on the way. I already have it kind of laid out, but I'll try to get that done. Part 3 or 4 to kind of go back through. I think Massey was right when he said in Congress, this has been involved for 4 administrations. So nobody can kind of wash their hands like, oh, it was the Republicans or left or right or blah, blah, blah. It's nonsense. It's been going on since Clinton, at least. And Epstein died when he was 66. So, and he had that one passport when he was 30. So 3.5 decades. But I've done a lot of shows, guys. If you're not familiar, I've done shows on Epstein's deviant art, the FBI files, the MCC, which is an acronym for the Metropolitan Correctional Center. I did one on pedo hellscape. So I've done different aspects of these files and will continue to do so. And Becca Day is well worth your time. I'll try to put that in the show notes. You can see all my stuff without ads at my Patreon, which I am responsive to. It's a legacy. I don't know if I'd be on Patreon today. I don't know if I'd sign up, but I signed up so long ago. I've just kind of had it. So that is one place to find me. My podcast is William Ramsey Investigates. I'm back streaming on YouTube. I have 3 channels. There's a main kind of, my 20,000 sub is probably the best place to chat if you want to chat with other people during the live streams. That's probably the best place to go and subscribe, get notifications. But I also stream to X, Rumble, Substack now, which allows it. I'm hoping to stream to Patreon. And there's more to the story. This is a very important story for America. It's kind of underground that reaches all our presidents. You know, it's really extraordinary. And the way that it's moved around was extraordinary. And I think that FBI memo, that 7th memo, July 7th memo, 2025, super important because the information in the EFTA directly contradicts it. And it also is very important because Bondi's going to show up in Congress on May 29th. It should be interesting. But some of those documents should be redacted. See what they're talking about. But that's about it. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. And share it if you like it. Have a great day. Till next time. All the best. Thanks for listening, too. I really appreciate the listening and the support. I'm very grateful. If I don't state it at the end of certain shows, I am grateful for all the support. And most people are really nice, like 95%. I don't get as many insults as I used to. I kind of miss the insults. I used to get insulted a lot. But anyway, wishing you all the best. Thank you so much.